is just talk a little bit about the edge and how Microsoft is working with Packet. A lot of you guys have had that question. You know this business model is evolving. What are you doing with bare metal? How bare metal is changing, how the edge is changing. So we thought, all of us, that probably the best thing to do is to have one of the most valuable companies, if not the most valuable companies in the world, on stage with us here. So thanks a lot, Dave.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks, and thanks for an awesome event. Are we looking at slides? This is really weird to feel sort of like, I'd like the stage. Can we walk? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we have one.
There we go.
So yes, as Ihab mentioned, my name is Lee Kashup. I work for the Azure engineering team, and specifically to Zach's point about builders, this team that I'm on is the team that built Microsoft's global WAN. We think about networking and compute sort of end-to-end in support of third-party developers and in support, of course, of our first-party applications. I've been at Microsoft off and on for 13 years. Only a little bit of off there for a short period. And now my role is to essentially look at 5G, edge, and all the things that that means without having to define it for people in the room who I think sort of have either their very own specific definitions or just a general sense of what I sort of mean when I say that. For us right now, where we're at is maybe we can advance the slide. And again, please feel free to interrupt. I think this sort of just goes to what I was saying. We've already made all these investments. You can see the numbers on the slide. It's a huge, it's depending on measuring, this is one of the two largest global WANs. As we think about what developers are doing today on our public cloud, and then what we're going to see them doing in terms of servicing devices all the way back to the public cloud, we can sort of imagine that this thing expands and expands, but has to always do that in service of the infrastructure that supports the applications. And at the end of the day, that's really where we're at, is at this sort of a confluence of, as we shifted to the public cloud over the last sort of decade-ish, now we're looking at what I think is another material shift, but a logical extension of this network that you see sort of on the slide.
So before I joined Packet, I was with Equinix, and before that I was with Verizon. When I was at Verizon, I managed the biggest global network at that time. We had nodes in 160 countries. And what I tell Yusuf, who's Dean's boss, Yusuf and Microsoft is responsible for all this Azure infrastructure. Microsoft in 5 years went from zero network to having a bigger network than AT&T and Verizon, and now more features than they will ever have. It took a big telco maybe 50 years to build those features. Within 5 years, the cloud built it all. And then now, I saw the announcement from Yusuf yesterday, they're exceeding everybody in performance because there's software-only DevOps model for networking. So, I mean, obviously the telco networks are still very critical, but now you have to think of the big clouds, the biggest global networks in the world, and that's just happened the last couple of years.
Yes, thanks. Maybe we can. So this is a slide, I think, you can read it a lot of different ways, but it's very hard of it is what we're saying. Once you built and continue to expand this type of global cloud, once you think of the IoT endpoints and just kind of the digitization of the physical world, or the bringing that physical world to software, and all of the things that enables us to do, taking advantage of that data and building intelligence. You can see here that this slide talks about edge in a very specific way. It's the offloading from cloud to IoT devices. But what I look at in this slide, and what's really important to me, is I look at all 4 of these bullets, and I think that's what we're here to talk about today. It's the requirement to essentially take all of the IP we built in support of everything I sort of just alluded to, and make sure that when a developer brings any array of devices and applications, it has to think about the end-to-end connectivity and compute, and has to go through the process of saying, well, I want to make this really easy. When I develop my application, I want that application to be able to leverage infrastructure, and specifically in this case, what we're focusing on is the convergence of that infrastructure at this middle tier. We'll call it the edge cloud, for sort of lack of a sort of better word at this point. But that's really what we're focused on, is how do we build and expand our infrastructure in support of all that. And again, it's a logical extension of everything we've already built in Azure.
Yeah, so for us at Packet, everybody knows how all the success Packet had and just pioneering that bare metal between Jacob, Zach, and everybody in the company. I would say we're starting now as a company to meet this wave coming from the big clouds. So it makes sense for us as a company to start figuring out how we can expand our customer services by giving them the chance to auto connect and integrate with the big clouds. And this is the Microsoft path. You can see Edge IoT AI is something we just announced this morning. We're supporting. So hopefully this picture for a lot of people start to give them why the pieces fit together. And we'll talk more about that.
One other quick thing to add is, again, I think to keep this collaborative, I want to be really clear. I hope everybody in the room here continues to have a dialogue today with us. The complexity is obviously not trivial. The idea of moving the technical model, the user experience, and the business model is something that's my job every day, is to think about how we do that. So being able to interact with folks in this room is a huge benefit, and hearing how we can do that in support of some of the business models you are all building is kind of the key.
So what's the edge? I mean, this is just a simple SOP of what we see happening. I would say there's a lot of innovation in infrastructure architecture. I'm not gonna bore you with a lot of it, but I'll show you a couple of slides of things that the team here at Packet is working on, and a lot of them are in this room. And then infrastructure is moving to DevOps. I have to say, I don't have a slide to talk about this, but I can't emphasize enough how massive this is. So this is probably the biggest transformation that's happening, and why we are successful with some of those discussions. When you go to a DevOps model for infrastructure, you don't need SI and you don't need all the cost and time. So now you can deploy services in days, and in hours. And we'll show you some example later in the afternoon, versus probably a 9-month process in a traditional OSS and SI. So that phenomenon has just started, and it's very, very disruptive. It also creates all the software tools, the developer ecosystem now is open for infrastructure people that have no access to it before. That's probably the fundamental thing we at Packet are solving. And then I would say enterprises are starting to think of bare metal as part of hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud used to be defined as on-prem plus public, but hybrid is now starting to look like multi-cloud, with bare metal being part of it. You want to cover this?
Yeah, I think kind of the key point from an Azure Microsoft perspective here is, as sort of we have evolved, learned more in the process of building out the Azure public cloud, to EHOP's point, we were just sort of talking about this on the way over today. The DevOps model, what we have had to do as a company to just fundamentally shift our thinking about how these applications get built. And when we launched services like Azure Kubernetes services, and when we look at all the open source evolution that we've had over the years, and sort of open source being basically, I think we are the largest corporate assembly of open source projects on earth. And so I think that's fundamental to how we think about it. And again, as EHOP suggested, we sort of have to understand that there's going to be infrastructure of all flavors that are going to be required to essentially serve that need. And again, from our point of view, this resolves itself as an Azure portal experience that allows for that to sort of be enacted by developers.
Yeah, I think the thing we were saying, I think a lot of people here would say that 5 years ago, maybe even public cloud was a controversial topic. You really go to the public. So I think this could move very fast based on the cycles of technology. So we announced as Packet one of our first edge sites with SBA. We're working, I can tell you, with the other cell towers. We have more of a panel with them later, so I'm not going to talk about that more. But I would say, what do we see about the edge that's different, which is what everybody wants to know. First of all, you saw our GPU announcement this morning. There's definitely a need. Now the architecture is starting to evolve for what a cloud is. Some of those accelerators can be put at the edge for very powerful performance and latency. That's not something that was widely available today. That's definitely a big shift that we see. And then the second thing is people are distributing their apps, even the networks. Now you can really distribute it, especially in container format you couldn't do before. And suddenly the edge becomes very cost effective, and people want different types of processors at the edge. And then I would say the data center design at the edge is changing so much. What we started with, this is a picture here of, I would say, modular data center with SBA. Is a mini version of a data center, but it's shifting so fast with how you change your power, cooling, and networking that this thing will become a different model. People are looking for highly distributed model of, let's say, 10,000 locations. Believe it or not, the issue is 80% software, 20% hardware, although hardware isn't huge anymore. So we see the economics evolving significantly in a positive way. A lot of people have that question. And we're going to drive some of that with our partners. And then, I'm just telling you from a hardware perspective, we have our key hardware designer, Zach is one of them, Tao here, and also Sam. But we are driving towards a universal server chassis, very hard to be able to put all different CPU diversity, to be able to quickly launch new things as they come to market. And more importantly, this multi-node that we're going to launch later will really change the economic in a significant way to make bare metal very cost effective with VMs at the edge. So I'm just trying to give you layers below it. This is not just about going. This is completely shifting fundamentally the technology of what a data center looks like and what the server looks like and all the software stack and distributed API and everything goes once, wakes up every morning where you go out here. And here's how we see our edge cloud. This is my last slide. This may look like an advertisement for a package, but just take it as part of the course. So, public cloud plus bare metal is what we hope people will take advantage of as a combined, set of tools with some deployments at cell towers for the edge and working with key wireless players. Samsung X and Federated are the three we're working with now. We're definitely spending a lot of time with Vapor, Cole here, American Tower, SBA. We'll talk more about that later, so I don't want to spend time. And then people want to be able to use the DevOps ecosystem that we have. All the developer ecosystem we built now becomes very powerful for that combo, and we see new use cases. So I'm going to let Lee talk a little bit about the use cases, but this is what we see, and all of our customers are doing something like it. For highly persistent apps, they would probably want to put it on bare metal. For some other stuff, they may be in public cloud. And that's kind of what we see the model, evolving. Not just at the edge, but our entire cloud model.
So, just to take a step back, we've talked about this, and this folks that I know, thanks to Cole and Mark and others who help, bring a lot of people together around this discussion. We spend a lot of time now internally evaluating these scenarios as we think about consumer-led, lighter devices, the ability to move compute to a more proximate but still powerful form factor. That's sort of one end of the spectrum. We can take signal from that experience. We can take signal from a venue that has to think through the managed connectivity service, all the immense amounts of data to support that digitization of that venue, bringing that again to a platform as closely proximate as possible to help reason over that data in that environment. And then using the public cloud infrastructure as a backstop. So we are fundamentally a platform that thinks about that ecosystem as something that we want to embrace and invest in this next chapter. And it's a long process. We're a couple of years in on this, and I think that's really the crux of the matter for us is how do we bring these use cases with an ecosystem of partners and really solve for the simplicity of connectivity and compute for those customers.
So a lot of people always ask about this, what is the killer use case? I tell you, my opinion, the killer use case is network. When network becomes disaggregated and goes to a virtualized software model, you can cut the cost almost 80% going to standard data center architecture instead of just specialized hardware. And we have a lot of examples of that already. But then IoT is showing up. Here's my simplest way to explain IoT. Everybody's already in the cloud, they already have sensors. They're saying, if you can make my elevators, instead of me having to pay $100 a month to be able to connect it, Zach and I talked to this company in Korea who said that. If you're able to fix this wireless / cloud thing where I can reduce my cost per every device to $10 per month versus 100. Suddenly I can pull all my data. So that's really the use case for the edge cloud. And actually the Korean guy, yeah. But I like what that Korean guy said. He's like, when we told him what we're thinking of edge cloud, he's like, whoa, this is cloud with the wind. The wind, I guess, is what he means wireless. So, and I thought it was a very good example of what people want. So it stuck in my mind. Edge cloud is cloud with the wind.
I think you just launched a company with that. So, as I was saying to Ihab, this is a neat slide to look at, especially thinking about what this would have, first of all, been, if you'd shown this 2 years ago, people would have looked at it like you're a little crazy. If you'd have shown it 10 years ago inside of Microsoft, people would have said, isn't this Windows? At some level, right? This is essentially what we are bringing together in service of the networking and compute architectures that Ihab was just mentioning. While we tend to, we're a big company and have built all these things for their own explicit purposes, the big lift here is to bring all that into one central focus for the edge, basically. We want to create this end-to-end, as I've sort of said a few times, cloud consistency, developer experience, simplicity of connectivity, affordable, essentially affordable connectivity, and compute that is reasoned over that particular application's needs. And that's what all of these products will compose to do over time. Some of the new IP we're developing is not referenced here. This is just talking about stuff that's sort of on the truck today. And there's a lot in here, and for folks that don't have a sort of deeper understanding of what we do around products like IoT Edge and Azure Stack, please pull me aside, ask questions, and I can kind of walk you through how we think about it today.
And what we plan to do at Packet is be an integrated part of that architecture. So anybody in the Microsoft Azure cloud will be able to use Packet Bare Metal in a very simplistic, integrated way. That's the plan, because most people, developers, are using pieces and all of that. So this is the last thing. We have been investing a lot in software development since I joined. We have a lot of our developers here, and we are today happy to announce our new product for cloud. It's Cloud Connect. We're launching it in private preview, and we are looking definitely for people to innovate with us. What we're going to have is a fully automated one-click connectivity to Azure Cloud with very high performance, high capacity. And so we're starting private preview, and we're going to do a full public availability launch in a few weeks, probably early January sometime. Our developers who developed it, Patrick, Linda, Bruce, and also Nathan from our side, are all here if you want questions about this. But I'm really proud of this. This is amazing. This team here did this whole development in 8 weeks, what usually takes months for any company, and that gives you a sense of how fast we're going to keep going. So I'm really excited about announcing it quickly.
So thanks, Ihab. It's been awesome collaboration. I love how quickly we're able to execute on these things. And I sort of really think what's amazing about what Packet's doing is so quickly taking all of these ideas and putting them to work in practice, building, as you said, Zach, and it really helps the ecosystem. Certainly from Microsoft's perspective, we're sort of excited to partner with you because the things that you're uncovering and the business models you're exposing are tremendous. So really appreciate the partnership.
Yeah, very much. Thank you so much. So I will just give you one example, and we're going to end it here. The kind of capacity we're going to bring together with Microsoft to this edge site in Boston is probably more than another big city by itself. Just to give you a sense how this is so transformational when we go into those edge locations with this new model. So thanks a lot, everybody. Maybe we can take one or two questions if we take a good time, and then we will shut it down. So thanks, Steve. Anybody want to ask anything? That is the session of the afternoon. That's the wireless part. Exactly. Yeah. I think the key is you have to reinvent the last mile for wireless, and we will talk about that. We have a lot of the wireless guys on the panel, and we have a presentation. Iyad is also going to present, and that's excellent tee up to put an ad for that session.